You walked past me earlier, and I saw you smiling as you were looking at the instruments. And I was like, she looks so beautiful. I have to come say hi.
Oh, thank you. Hi, where are you from?
Yeah.
We'll see each other.
Yeah. Cool. All right, take care, yeah?
You too.
Bye. But I'll get your Instagram, and then I'll like shoot you a text, and then we can like maybe get a drink or something.
Yeah.
You look really beautiful.
Thank you.
And I was like, I had to come say hi.
Hi.
Hello. Where are you from?
Thank you for your compliment.
Yeah, well, excuse me. Oh, sorry, 1 second. All of you look amazing right now. Me and my friend, we walked past and I was like, you look so good. I was like, I had to compliment you.
Thank you so much.
Where are you from? I like the fact that you corrected it. She said soccer first, and then I was like, yeah, you won me back. I was like, don't say soccer, please. Those aren't hickeys.
No.
That was one of the most impressive approaches across the board I've ever seen in my life. And that's day 2 of your immersion. Get the f out of here. This guy's an animal.
1 second. 1 second. Just 1 second.
Okay.
1 second. 1 second.
Sorry, I need to go.
That's all right. Yeah. Take care.
Thanks.
You look very. Just 1 second. I'm not gonna do it. I'm not telling you anything.
Sorry.
Okay. Fuck.
You know, everybody who gets good at the skill set will have to go through these kind of days. Your presence or just having somebody else is really important because it's funny. I knew I felt bad, but I was blaming technique. Efren pulled me aside and said, look, let's just have a break. Let's talk it out. He could clearly see I was pretty pissed off. But yeah, he allowed me to just verbalize my thoughts, be open, talk about how I felt. Obviously I was feeling really frustrated, embarrassed.
These days are where the men are built. These days are where the men are made. These days chisel out our character. Most men think that once they've gotten proficient at approaching women, they somehow become immune to rejection. The reality is, it's a lottery every time you approach. Some days go great, and all the girls you approach are happy to stop for you and talk with you. Some days go terrible, and none of the girls stop for you or engage with you. Most days are somewhere in between, with some blowouts and some great conversations. In this video, you'll see the second half of Isaac's 3rd day of coaching, where he faced his first bad day with me, where virtually no girls stopped to engage with him. Then you'll see a full interview from Isaac, where he breaks down the rough day that he just had, how I coached him through it, and what he learned from it. But if you haven't already seen the other videos in this series, I highly recommend you watch those first. A card has just popped up on your screen, so click on that to start watching this series from the beginning. Isaac's first 2 days of coaching went great. Most of the girls that he approached during those first 2 days were happy to speak with him, and he got tons of positive reference experiences. However, on this day that you're about to see, nothing was going his way. He began questioning himself, his appearance, and his technique. During this day, we spent a lot of time off camera talking through the negative momentum that he was experiencing. Believe it or not, these are my favorite days as a coach. They allow me to teach my students how to develop resilience, which is a requirement when building this skill. And if you would like somebody by your side walking you through these character building days that will inevitably happen, then click the first link below this video to schedule a free application call with me.
Fun. Oh my god. Hi. Excuse me. Hey. 1 second. 1 second. Just 1 second.
Okay.
1 second. 1 second. Excuse me. Hi. 1 second. 1 second. Can you hear me? 1 second. Just 1 second. You look very. Just 1 second. I'm not gonna do it. I'm not telling you anything.
Sorry.
Okay. Fuck. One second. Can you hear me?
What?
1 second. Can you hear me now?
Yes.
Perfect. You look incredible.
Thanks.
You just walked past me. I was like, you look so good. I had to come say hi.
Thank you.
Where are you from?
Russia.
Russia?
Yeah.
Like Moscow?
Or like Siberia.
Oh, the other side.
In the
Wow.
middle of the Russia.
Ah. Are you on the call right now or?
Yeah, I'm just phone to my best friend and just really nervous.
Oh, okay.
Sorry, I need to go.
That's all right. Yeah. Take care.
Thanks.
Okay.
Yeah, what are you doing here?
A bit of shopping. I've been in Belgrade for like 2 days.
Yeah, okay.
But I thought I would do like a little bit of shopping, maybe go to Zara.
Okay.
Yeah. Because it's also really hot right now.
Yeah,
It's too much.
it's too much. Yeah, I didn't go outside like
You didn't go outside?
yeah, today and yesterday. It was too hot.
Nice. I just noticed that your dress matches your eyes.
Thank you so much. Yeah, like too.
Wow.
Yeah.
So how long are you in Belgrade for?
I will return tomorrow.
Okay.
Tomorrow morning.
Tomorrow
I will
morning.
go back to Switzerland. And you?
Nice. I'm just going to stay here for a few more days.
Oh, okay.
I haven't actually booked my flight back to London yet,
Okay.
so we'll see.
Yeah, I mean, we have time.
Yeah, I have a lot of time. Thankfully, I'm remote, so I don't have to be there
Okay.
like right now.
Yeah.
But I think once I'm tired of the heat, I'll just go back home and
I understand.
yeah,
I'm tired too.
yeah.
I think it's hot wherever you go, so.
It is, yeah, exactly.
Yeah.
All right, well, you're not here for long, so I was going to ask you, take you out for a drink or something, but it's all
I
good.
would have come with you, but I'm sorry, I really have to return tomorrow.
No, that's fair.
But
That's fair.
Yeah.
It was nice meeting you anyway,
Yeah, it was nice to meet you too.
and have a good day, yeah?
Yeah, you too.
Bye.
All right, Isaac. So we've reached the end of day 3. First things first, as we can both agree, day 3 was a lot more brutal than days 1 and 2 in comparison. So firstly, just walk us through how day 3 went for you.
Yeah, so yeah, at the start there was the same enthusiasm in terms of getting out there and putting in the reps. We started the day off in the cafe, just going over some, let's say, more inner game topics. After reviewing my footage of the first 2 days, Ephraim realized that there was a lot of tepid language in my conversations, especially with the close. So, we drew down into that a bit more and, tried to understand why that was the case. And yeah, we essentially came down to, topics around, past experiences in high school, rejections, not feeling worthy enough of the attractive girl, and as a result, essentially rejecting ourselves or rejecting ourselves or rejecting myself, before, as I'm going in for what I want, whether it's trying to get a date or trying to get an Instagram or trying to get a number. So, yeah, we dug into that, spoke about it openly, had a nice deep sort of heart-to-heart about it, and then, yeah, we pushed on from there. And, we went out with the intention of focusing on removing this kind of language, putting our foot down when it came to asking for what I want, and essentially, allowing that to come through in the conversations. So, yeah, with that objective in mind, I went out into the street, and I got the ball rolling quick, but very quickly I realized, okay, today seems to be tougher than yesterday and the day before that, the first 2 days. But I didn't think much of it because, that can happen. I've had blowouts before when I started this solo. But, I started getting 3 blowouts, 4 blowouts, another blowout. And more specifically, I was actually struggling to get the girls to stop. But then, at that point, we also knew that there was a lot less volume. And because it was a really hot day. So we decided to go to the mall instead, try to get more volume. And also, be in a much cooler environment, which just made it easier for myself and even the girls who are out there. So yeah, we got a taxi, went to the mall, and resumed the session there. And it was more of the same. Yeah, change of environment, but same shit. Essentially getting blown out, time after time again. Of course, at that point, I was getting more frustrated with each stop. There have been points where, essentially the approach, the mechanics were slipping, and I was almost like begging for the girls to stop. I was so determined to save face and just get them to stop because I'd been so unsuccessful up until that point. So yeah, the neediness was starting to show. I didn't know it at the time until we eventually sat down and took a break because I was feeling really down, and everyone could see that as well. So yeah, that was the mall, and we had that break. So Ephraim pulled me aside and said, "Look, let's just have a break. Let's talk it out." He could clearly see I was pretty pissed off. But yeah, I didn't really want to talk about it at the time. I was just in my head. And I was even feeling guilty about admitting to the fact that I just felt frustrated. But yeah, he allowed me to just verbalize my thoughts, be open, talk about how I felt. Obviously I was feeling really frustrated, embarrassed. I felt like the spotlight was really on me as well because I kept getting rejected. So I just assumed people were probably seeing that as well. So yeah, just a lot of negative thoughts flooding my brain, which was quite somewhat overwhelming. And I guess in that moment, I kind of felt like just stopping, but like a little bit, or at least just stopping for that period. I didn't even really want to talk. But of course we kept on talking, and Ephraim put it into perspective, and we spoke about energy, the importance of energy, and how even though my technique was fairly good, obviously with the exception of being a bit too aggressive at some points, and that was all on my part because of the energy, actually, right? So that wasn't technique related. That type of approach was nothing that was ever taught to me. That was me just doing extra stuff because I'm trying to save face. So yeah, we talked about the importance of energy and how that's more important than technique. And so once he put that into perspective, for starters, it let's say it reduced some of my concerns because I genuinely thought my technique was slipping, which is why I thought that was the reason why I wasn't getting the girls to stop or to engage. But yeah, he reassured me and he said, for most of the session, the technique was okay. You were just in a bad, you had a few blowouts and you're essentially just in a bad period right now where the energy is off, and that's manifesting itself in the approach. And I couldn't see it, but he could see it. All right. And so, yeah, we had that conversation. We also spoke about, I guess just why such a bad period is important in the wider context of the journey. And, everybody who gets good at the skill set will have to go through these kind of days. So again, just essentially a positive reframe was what Ephraim was trying to drill into me at the time. And I was getting it. It was resonating with me. And of course, I was able to calm down and relax a bit more. And so, yeah, at some point we just decided, let's just get a drink. Let's not do any approaches. Let's just, chat shit, have fun, have a bit of banter. And then if I wanted to go out again, then we could go out again. And so, yeah, right before I decided to go out, I asked Ephraim, I don't really want to think too much about closes or removing language or technique. I just, because right now my head's in a really fuzzy place. And he was like, great, then just have fun. Just try and have fun. So that was the intention for the second half of the day, or let's say the last part of the day. And yeah, everything changed from there. Yeah, I immediately started getting better responses. The girls were stopping more often. And yeah, I had a few longer conversations, and then eventually I approached two girls and we had a nice almost 5-minute conversation. Ephraim came around to provide some wingman backup, and yeah, it was actually fun. So it was a complete change of situation. Like initially the blowouts, bad mood, and then ending the day with good conversations, good approaches, good responses, and yeah, essentially just in a much better mood. So yeah, everything definitely changed once we had that break. And so yeah, that was pretty much the day.
Yeah, quite the day that you had. We talked about quite the stark contrast from days 1 and 2, and maybe you came into day 3 feeling a bit invincible, as though the days were just going to keep getting better and better, and in an ideal world that'd be the case. But I remember at one point as we were speaking, I even mentioned that I preferred that you had this bad day with me versus having 5 amazing days in a row going back to London, and inevitably, right, in the back of my head, I already know you're going to have a shit day just like this, just like I have, just like Joseph and all the other guys in this space know. Yeah, it's impossible to just string a million great days back to back to back. It's just not the reality of this skill set. And so yeah, first things first, I'm glad that you were able to have that day with me so that I could provide support and reassurance and guidance in that aspect. But I want to dig a little bit deeper into that conversation we had at the mall, that interlude that we had that seemed to have changed everything around. Yeah. Where you mentioned that, well, I guess I mentioned that a lot of this has to do with your emotional state. So, so the technique can only get you so far. Technique is great for getting your foot in the door, and it is very necessary to have solid technique with this skill. But once you've got the technique nailed down, it can't compensate for a lack of positive energy, a lack of positive momentum. And so the reality is, if you're going a full day, it was super hot out. Yeah, he had a few shots the night before. And then to add on top of that, 10 to 15 back-to-back blowouts where the girl's walking straight past, giving a frosty look, not smiling at him very much. So he's getting negative reinforcement. So it makes it really difficult to then all of a sudden switch up your state and think that, all right, well, I'll just keep on hammering away at the technique and somehow I'll technique my way out of this bad state, right? We're not robots, as you mentioned. We're humans. We have emotions, and if you look at it in a certain way, that's kind of our superpower, is the fact that we have emotions. That's what allows us to enjoy experiences. But the other end of that is that's what allows us to feel those negative experiences really, really badly. And so the big topic of that interlude was that emotional state. The way that I described it was, Isaac caught on to this really quickly. He's a really intelligent guy, and so I use the AirPod analogy. Yeah, I'll just call it that. We'll trademark that term, the AirPod analogy. Yeah. So I'm not a scientist. I'm not a technology wizard. I don't know how AirPods work. All I know is that they work, and I can take a Bluetooth device, put it in my ear, and play music from my phone, and even have my phone 50 feet away, and somehow the high quality music still makes it to my ear, even though I don't see the waves that are being transmitted to me. But somehow it works, right? And so that then proves that there is something going on in between the lines. There are some wavelengths that are being sent from my phone to my ears that allow me to hear that audio. And in the very same way, when it comes to cold approach, there are these invisible wavelengths that we can't see. And even if the technique is perfect, the approach can still go shit, right? And sometimes it's just the girl might be having a bad day, but when it's 15 in a row and then you're trying to go in for number 16, there are going to be these waves that you're emitting that you might not even know that you're emitting, that are causing some of these interactions to go shit. When maybe if you had a great day and you had 15 numbers in a row, maybe that girl would have stopped and had a chat with you, right? And so the whole concept was, if the entire day is leaning negative and you have all of this negative reinforcement back to back to back, and you try to push your way through it and muscle your way through it, right? Just like we do at the gym when we feel like shit, but we go anyways. The reality is there's going to be something that you're transferring, even though the technique is perfect. There's something in your eyes. There's something in your aura. There's something in your voice when you say, excuse me, when you try to stop her. There's something in the way that you're even slightly hesitating. There's these micro expressions that are going on that even though we can't see them visibly, we can't pinpoint them, they are being emitted and the girl is receiving them to some capacity. And so that was a concept that I tried to really drill home, and you seem to pick up on that quite well. So I'm curious, what is your take on that concept? And when we had that interlude, I noticed it switched, and all of a sudden the waves that you were emitting, right, the invisible wavelengths, must have changed because all of a sudden all the girls were stopping, all the girls were smiling, even the ones that what we would classify as blowouts. You had a couple where they grabbed your arm and they said, oh, sorry, honey, I have a boyfriend. Thank you. And they left you with a huge smile, and you can tell that you made their day better. Yeah. Essentially, maybe we can summarize it as going to give versus going to take, but I'd like to hear this from your perspective.
Yeah. Well, I think firstly, the negative emotion manifesting itself like you said, in your eyes, the way you say excuse me, the way you talk, your body language. I think it's interesting because it would have never dawned on me that was the case unless you were if you weren't there. So your presence, or just having somebody else to remind you that that's actually showing in your approach is really important. Because it's funny, I knew I felt bad, but I was blaming technique. But in reality, I should be thinking about my energy, right? So that was a big shift for me, because it means I need to, when I'm having a bad day, instead of thinking too much about technique, especially now, since I already know what a good technique looks like, I should be immediately thinking, how can I change my energy? All right, so that should be the main point of focus when it comes to, going from like let's say a bad day out or a bad set of reps to, transitioning to a better set of reps, getting better results. And of course, I can't control how the world responds to me. And I can't go in thinking, okay, my energy is great, therefore now I'm going to get 5 good responses or 5 numbers. But yesterday was a pure example of how there will be an improvement. There will be an improvement, right? And so, yeah, just have, I guess the lesson at least the first lesson was, the energetic element is, it's an intangible thing. And it's hard to see or to recognize unless you have somebody else looking at it, from a different perspective. And then I think another lesson in terms of energy is, because energy, I think a lot of it also comes from the conversations you're having with yourself. So, a big reason why I was feeling super bad about the rough start to the day is because I took it personally, right? And when you take something personally, that also in a way sets off a chain reaction of other emotions. So if I have a blowout and then I take it personally, well, now another set of emotions comes cascading down. So now I feel more self-conscious. Now I feel more like a piece of shit. Now I feel like I'm not worthy. And now it's like a snowball effect, where now the first emotion, because whenever you get rejected with a blowout and cold approach, at some level there's always going to be like a bit of it'll always hurt at some level. Yeah. But but how much that hurts and what that turns into very much depends on the conversation you're having about it afterwards. And so, the energy, right? The energy, it's like, if you think of it like a ball and it's like small, that negative energy ball is expanding the more you start like talking, saying negative things about it, right? And so once we went through, in that interlude, that period where we just took a break, I think, let's say the ball was really expanded. Once we started talking about all this stuff, in terms of what's actually going on, the ball essentially decreased, right? The negative energy decreased, and now I had more space to actually just relax, So it's like a very, like the energy. If you had to define energy as a ball, it's always expanding and contracting, and sometimes you have, maybe let's say you can even have like a positive energy ball and a negative one, and one's getting inflated, and as the positive one gets inflated, then the negative one gets down, and it's a very delicate game. But there are actual tangible ways, let's say, to, essentially put more, to get to have more positive energy rather than negative energy. And you don't necessarily get it from doing more approaches. You get it from taking a step back and reflecting, and ideally having somebody next to you. Although again, I think this is one of the reasons why you say it was so important that I had this day with you, because going forward for the rest of my approaches, for the next weeks, months, years, I'll always look back on yesterday or today, let's say, day 3, because I in that moment, like everything you were saying in that interlude, that will stick with me. That will essentially be my reference point on how to cultivate a better energetic state when I'm having a bad day, a bad approach day. So yeah, I guess those were like my lessons from that 1 hour break that we took before the better session in the second half. So
Yeah, you put that in such great terms there, that energetic ball that expands and contracts based on that inner monologue that you're having with yourself. This is why I love these conversations, is because I can only phrase it in so many ways because this is how my brain works. I've never thought of it that way. That's such a great way to put it, yeah? When you feed into that negative spiral, that ball does expand, and to your point, at some level, each blowout is going to impact your state. Whether it's a lot or whether it's a little bit is really up to you. Yeah. To be fair, it's probably up to the number of approaches you've done. It's also up to the people that are around you and whether they're encouraging or discouraging. But at the end of the day, most of it is up to you. And so if you continue with that negative thought pattern, that ball is going to expand and it's going to get bigger and bigger, and eventually you're going to suffocate under the pressures. Whereas if you're able to just cut that off and remember that none of these blowouts define you, and you are the person who defines you. Your action and how you respond to negativity, how you respond to difficulty, that is what defines you. Then you're able to limit how much that negative ball expands. And if you're able to go into the next approach with more enthusiasm and more fun and less pressure, then the interaction has a way better chance of going well, and then that negative ball is going to dissipate entirely, and it's going to start to be a positive ball, right? So it's really well put. Yeah, so to end things off, what I said to you during that interlude as well, and I don't know if that pissed you off or if that motivated you in the moment, but I said that these days where you're getting blown out back to back to back, and it feels like everything you've learned has somehow disappeared, it feels like everything's going wrong, and the skill set has regressed, as you said at some point. These days are where the men are built. These days are where the men are made. These days chisel out our character. And guys that come into this space, oftentimes there's a sense of entitlement. We want things easier. We want the dates quicker. And we forget that before we can get the reward, before we get the cookie, we have to earn it. Yeah, we have to put in the reps. We have to take our licks, and we have to pick ourselves up off of the pavement. And so one of the reasons why I really love that you had this day, not just with me, but just in general, is because I got to see who you are as a man. Yeah, I got to see your character truly tested. Because on days 1 and 2, when things were going great, you were learning a lot in the positive direction. But when it comes to managing negative emotions, you weren't learning a thing because everything was going so well. And so, in my opinion, it's much harder to build the skill of self-regulation on negative days than it is on positive days. On positive days, your ego is being reinforced, and on negative days, your ego is getting battered. And so just seeing how you were able to navigate that really shone a light on who you are as an individual, a person that doesn't give up, that perseveres, a resilient person that is able to get thrown flat on the ground time and time and time again, and still get back up, and still decide to go back in, and still decide after our interlude, no, I'm not giving up, and I'm going to go in for more approaches, and turn his day around. Yeah, one approach at a time, one decision at a time, turn his day around. And that was really inspirational to see. So I'm curious about your thoughts around that concept of men being made through difficult times. Yeah, having those first really positive momentum kind of days, and then hitting a brick wall, so to say. How do you see that?
Yeah, no, I think it's important. And it's funny because at some level, I've always known this when it comes to, even areas outside of code approach, like other areas of life. At some level, we all know that the harder times that we've experienced, they've all made us stronger. It's like that cliche saying of, whatever doesn't kill you makes you stronger. It's like, there's a lot of truth to that, and I guess with code approach, it's it's different because rejection is so tied to our self-worth and our ego and validation, and it's a very complicated experience. but the same applies. You know, the same concept applies. So yeah, it's you know, when you look at the tough days through that lens, then you see the bigger picture. And I think seeing the bigger picture is always important in these moments, because if you don't, then yeah, you just get bogged down. You know, I would have been bogged down in the negativity, and it wouldn't have allowed myself to get out and take more reps. You know, the reason I put more reps in is because I could take that third person perspective that you described to me, and realize, okay, this is just genuinely a part of the process. And no, of course I didn't. Of course I wasn't, you know, pissed when you were saying that, because I get it. I get it. I've always gotten that. You know, I've done plenty of things in my life where I struggled, and maybe at some points I felt like quitting, and then eventually I just kept going. You know, and then I eventually got to the end of the road and saw the light at the end of the tunnel, and I looked back and I went, damn, you know what? That was actually, first of all, that was okay. Like, in the moment it felt bad, and maybe I got a couple of bruises, but in the long run, I'm grateful. And that's actually always been an interesting, how do I say it? It's always been an interesting aspect of life that I've dwelled on in the past, in terms of, you know, when we're in a bad period, we're so desperate to get out of it, and then eventually when we get out of it, we look back on it and we go, I'm glad I went through it. But in the moment, we're like, why am I going for this? Why am I going for this? And then you look back and you're like, oh, no, I'm so happy I went through that. And so, that's essentially what makes a man, right? It's not, I think I said this to you today. I was like, imagine if my first ever approach in London in September last year went so well and I got my girlfriend from that. I wouldn't be anywhere near the person I am today.
Exactly.
So, you know, I know some, you know, there's a temptation to want a quick fix, like you said. There's a temptation to want everything to come immediately because of this sense of entitlement. But when you really think about it, you don't want that. You actually don't want that. You think you want that, but you don't want that.
Yeah.
So, and I knew that a while ago, right? And so, of course, now, like I said, cold approach is different, and that's why I like getting more specific with this topic, because this is intertwined with sex. This is intertwined with reproduction, testosterone, hormones. You know, this isn't like, oh, I'm in school and I'm having a couple of rough weeks trying to write this paper, and I'm really stressed with exams. It's like, that's all man-made stuff. You know, this is like this. We're talking about biology, so there's so much frustration with this whole journey. So I get that. You know, that's why it's harder. But like I said, the same concept applies, right? So yeah, that's I guess that's the way that I look at it. And so when you framed it like that, yeah, it 100% resonated with me. And sometimes you need someone else to say it for you, to remind you of that lesson. Because I've always known that. But you know, when you're in that negative spiral, it's your mind is so clouded that it's very hard for you to go back into the, let's say, the prefrontal cortex, which is where all that sort of information is like lying, you know. So like, even, you know, earlier today we talked about how, you know, it's funny how, you know, when you're texting a girl or you're talking to somebody, at one level, like let's say rationally, you know what to say, but if you're really desperate and you're really frustrated, you'll say something completely ridiculous just to get pussy, all right? And somebody else looking from a third person perspective goes, why would you say that? But in reality, because you're so driven by, you know, your testosterone or whatever, and your desire, your rational judgment is clouded, right? And so, I don't want to go on a tangent, but essentially the same thing goes for like the negative emotions and a bad experience. It's like, in the moment, it's so visceral. You know, it's like you feel it in your body, you feel it in your mind. It's really there in the present moment. So all these lofty concepts of hard times create strong men, it's like, it's so hard to really internalize that. It's so hard to internalize that because that seems so far away. You can't really touch that.
Yeah.
You know, you can't touch the future. The future seems so far away. So when you're telling me, oh, this will like count, this will, like, trust me, you'll look back on this and be happy. It's like, okay, yeah, I get that. But right now it feels shit, you know, but now, I mean, again, that's not how I took it because I understand what you're saying. So and when you say it like that, it definitely brings something, it definitely calms down your mind to some degree. Maybe not all the way, but it helps. So yeah, I guess those are my thoughts on that.
Yeah. The reality is days like this are going to happen. And most guys are going to try to tough this out alone. They're going to try to pick themselves off the pavement. And hats off to you if you can do that. Most men can't do that. I couldn't do that. Isaac couldn't do that. The guys in the entourage couldn't do that. And it's always going to help to have somebody that's already been through that journey and knows what this looks like and has gotten to the light at the end of the tunnel, as Isaac phrased it. They're by your side, able to guide you through those very delicate moments of life where it's hard to self-regulate in these moments, especially with something as socially difficult as cold approach. So if you'd like somebody by your side, if you'd like a support beam, so to say, for these really difficult sessions, these difficult days where things just aren't going your way, and instead of trying to figure this out alone and navigate this and potentially giving up if you hit this brick wall like Isaac did on day 3, if you'd like support through this, then my link is in the description. It's the first link below this video. You can book in a call on my Calendly, and we can see if we're a good fit to work together. Because Isaac tried this on his own, and 600 approaches in, he realized that there's so much value in not just being coached, but just having somebody by your side who's been there, who knows what's going on, guiding you through the process so that you're not alone, and you have somebody to lean on in these very delicate moments. So we'll wrap it up there. Thank you so much for sharing your thoughts. This was a very insightful session, I'd say, and I can't wait to get started with tomorrow. So we'll see you boys later. If you've watched this video and you think that you would quit after a day like this, if you think it would be too difficult to keep going on your own when you reach a day that isn't going your way, then click the first link below this video to schedule a free application call with me. Even if it turns out that we're not a good fit to work together, I'll still give you individually tailored advice, I'll answer all of your questions, and I'll give you a game plan that will put you ahead of 99% of guys that never take that next step.